What astrology has done for me. This is Tracy with Tracy Talks, a podcast about life, looking at life from a new perspective to gain wisdom and understanding in hopes to know yourself more. I had always been someone who followed my sun sign, and meaning I was born in October, I'm a Libra. I would read my daily horoscope in newspapers. I always remember reading my horoscope. I don't remember why I started or the significance there, but it was something that I was always interested in. I've always had a general interest for astrology, but it wasn't until 2020 when I had enormous amounts of free time. I had more time where I was alone. I started listening to creators on YouTube, and I really dove down into the basic understanding of what astrology is because I had no idea. Again, I was always just reading my sun sign, but there is so much more information there. I am someone who wants to know how I work and what makes up my characteristics and how I can use my strengths and how I can understand my quote weaknesses so I can maximize my output. That's just how I think. And that's how my mind works and how I am designed to work. I'm always looking for tools to understand myself more. I'm looking for tools to understand how I interact and connect with people and how people see me. In 2020, this was a period where I was just consuming information about astrology. A lot of people have this negative reaction to astrology as if it is some type of woo, make-believe, it almost counters religion, and so it's perceived as dark and negative and something evil and bad. And I don't resonate with that by any means, because I think anything can be used to hurt and manipulate people. Everything can. How you use it is up to you. I kind of wanted to talk about this today because there are moments in our life where things feel really hard and we have to do hard things and we have to look at hard things in our life and they feel overwhelming and it's hard to see our way out of the situation, out of the darkness, out of whatever it is. So here's my basic interpretation of what astrology has done for me and how I use it in my life. So the moment that we're born, the moment that we come into this world, we have a birth time. And essentially what astrology is, it's taking like this snapshot of the heavens. And we have all of these stars and we have all of these asteroids and we have all of these planets that are frozen in that moment in the sky when we're born. That is our astrology chart. Except we can't see it. We don't have a picture of the sky and how everything's lined up and how everything interacts. But we have software that does that and calculates that for us. The moment you are born, all of these significant planets are positioned in your chart. Each one of these planets, these major planets, the sun has a placement, The moon has a placement. Venus in the sky has a placement. Mars in the sky has a placement. Jupiter and Saturn, all of these have placements that are individual for you. The moment that you were born, those planets are arranged in the sky. And those interactions and alignments and conjunctions and all of that helps to understand your characteristics, your archetypes, how you function, how you don't. That probably from the beginning of time, people have been observing the stars and how they move through the sky and how they interact and what happens when the moon does this and people change how they behave. I mean, we all behave differently under a full moon. And when Mars is active in the sky, how prevalent war is in areas. And so since the beginning of time, people have been mapping out how people behave when the planets rotate in the sky. I've had people look at my chart. A really good astrologer can look at it and say, Tracy does this. Tracy behaves like this. Tracy likes this. Tracy doesn't like this. And it is uncanny how somebody who doesn't even know me can interpret based on how the planets are interacting with each other, can identify core characteristics of me, because these are archetypes, meaning that when somebody sees these alignments and see how they communicate and how they talk to each other, that these are the themes that show up and are represented, which is cool. So basically, your birth chart is the tools that you come into this life with and kind of where you start. It's like your home base. It's not where you're going to end up, but it's where you start. And we all start with different tools. We all start with different understanding. We all start with different characteristics. And that's where I wanted to understand myself more. Where am I starting at? And is there any way that I can understand where am I going? I was never someone, and I've said this before, I was never someone who was like, I'm going here. And I didn't have this definite understanding of what I wanted. And I know that now because I'm a Libra. A Libra's the scales. It's this, I can see both sides of everything. I don't really like to be definite on anything. I like to kind of, see where I'm at and to see, what is the best option. And then I realized that I have a Gemini moon. And what does that mean? It's kind of like the Libra. The Gemini is the twins. It's the, I don't really want to be definite and defined. I just kind of want to see both sides. And so both of my primary planets in my chart are let's just wait and see what happens before we make a decision. So yeah, that makes sense that I feel like I've been wandering for years, decades. But my point here today is there's a lot of information in there. But one of the most valuable things that has come out of astrology for me is basically, if you've ever listened to any of the clips on Instagram or the clips on TikTok or anywhere where we talk about transits. And transits are where typically they're not long periods of time, but they can feel long. And sometimes the planet of Saturn is this grumpy old man in your chart who wants to follow the rules, and he doesn't have anything good to say, and he just wants to follow the rules. He wants everybody to follow the rules. He wants you to work hard. He wants you to put in the time. He doesn't want to hear you complaining, but it's going to feel like that grandpa that was just on you all of the time. That is the Saturn in your chart. And sometimes when that Saturn is having a conversation with other planets in your chart, it is a period in your life when you feel like you are being challenged. You are being asked to dig deep into your life. You are being asked to really summon all of the courage that you've ever had to do. And sometimes it feels like a grounding, like when you were in high school and you couldn't do anything. Those oftentimes are Saturn transits in your life. And before astrology, before I understood that these are cycles and that these are moments and that these are temporary, I had no idea of knowing why I felt the way I felt. I had no idea why I was feeling like the world was caving in. And I would get scared. I would get fearful. I would not understand why I had these moments when nothing felt like it was working and everybody felt like they were against me. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make things happen. That was before astrology. But now, when I feel that way, it's like, oh, that's a Saturn transit, and what is it asking me to do? It is asking me to just stay in my house, asking me to focus on learning something, focus on just being in this cocoon. And I call it a cocoon where the universe is saying, you know what? You're at a time period where you're not supposed to be pushing your energy out there. You're not supposed to be doing this. I mean, you can. But in the past, when I did that, it was frustrating. I didn't understand what was happening. And astrology is helping me use these cycles in my life as tools where I can know the best time to push my energy out there. I know the best time where it's like, oh, I just have to realize that this is a time period where I'm going to be low on energy. I don't want to do anything, and that's okay. This is a time in a cycle in my life when my relationships could feel challenged, where I don't feel like I am communicating in the best way. And this is a cycle. This is a moment. Nothing is wrong with me. Nothing has gone wrong. Nothing is bad. Because we are conditioned to believe right now in our life that we can just manifest anything we want, that our relationships are always supposed to be perfect, that we are always supposed to be pushing out there, we're supposed to be making things happen, we're supposed to be doing these things, and that's just not the case. It's not. And that my life path, my life chart is very different than yours. You could be having a great transit with your Saturn, and you can be accomplishing goals, you can be making things happen, but in my life, I'm grounded and I can't do anything. And that's just the cycle I'm in. Astrology has helped me to understand those cycles and how I operate in the world and what bigger cycle I'm on. Astrology has been a liberating tool for me. It has been a tool to understand the cycles of my life, to help me understand my core makeup and how I operate. How do I best communicate people? What is the best way for me to disseminate information? What are my strengths? What tools do I have in my toolbox? Because nothing is more frustrating thinking that you need to be doing something in your life and then realizing, well, that's not my strength. And if I pivot to my strength, how life changes. how I can be in the flow easily. And when I see somebody going through something, I automatically think, I don't know, they're going through a transit right now, but not everybody's open to that information, so I don't share it. Because so often some of these are moments in time. And astrology has given me that liberation to go, okay, this is a moment. The world hasn't ended. The world hasn't collapsed. I have this transit, and it's a booger of a transit. And I have to just give myself grace to know that, to think, okay, nothing's going to get done this month. Nothing is going to get done this month, and that is okay. It's just a transit. I'm going to make it through. I'm going to be fine. Astrology just helps me to redirect what I'm focusing on, helps me to understand the cycles. It helps me to understand what can help me transform my life. This is my little astrology moment for the day. Thank you for listening to this podcast of Tracy Talks. Please like and share with others who would enjoy listening to this podcast. And until next time, we meet again.